Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Mary Trump's Nerd Avengers. I am Mary Trump with a tan. Of course, I'm not. I'm Wajat Lee. Our beloved Mary is taking the day off because she had to go on a work travel, but don't you worry, she'll be back on Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. In the meantime, I'm stepping in as Brown Mary from Earth 4. And oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. See, once upon a time in this country called America, a plurality of Americans decided, you know what? Let's elect a racist criminal vulgarian who enacts stochastic terrorism against his enemies and has said that he will be a dictator for a day, terminate the Constitution, quotes Hitler, says he wants to unleash the military and National Guard against the enemy of the people, the enemy from within. And lo and behold, when he actually won, barely, with 49% of the vote, he attacked judges who actually tried to implement the rule of law and checks and balances. He implemented his racist vision. Oh, by the way, yes, he went along with the entire playbook in Project 2025 to cut and gut Social Security, to cut Medicaid, and Democrats decided to be civil until the public said enough is enough. We're going to unpack all of that and much more on today's Nerd Avengers. Let's roll. Brown Mary keeps on rolling. Welcome, community. Welcome, Brian Karem. Brian Karem is a White House reporter, best-selling author, and the host of Reverse Shot. And we might be joined by Adam later on. But right now, it's me and Brian. We're going to do the Blues Brothers. We're going to do the duo. We're going to take on the Empire. We are the Rebel Forces, folks. And like Ike and Tina, we're not going to do it nice and easy. We're going to do it nice and rough today, Brian.
Well, you can go easy or you can go hard. Which way you want to go, we're there.
We're gonna go nice. We're not gonna go nice and easy. We're gonna go a little bit rough. We got a whole bunch of stories today. We're gonna break it down for you as always. Respect to Mercedes and our DJ Lexi. DJ Lexi is in the background. Is gonna give all these clips. Brian, first and foremost, before I do a setup, just to show you the incompetence of these arrogant a-holes, I'm fasting, so I won't say the word, in the Trump administration.
Well, assholes, I'll say it for you since you're fasting.
There you go. And just to show you, as they're attacking
when you need it.
as they're attacking DEI and affirmative action, they brought the best and the brightest. I'm going to play this clip before we break down our first news story. Check this out.
And this Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable.
You're right where I wanted to go about the idea that these people are all foreign terrorists, but Judge Boasberg was originally appointed by George W. Bush and then elevated by Barack Obama. I just feel like I should clear that up.
Whoopsie. Real
Thank
quick,
God
folks,
somebody pushed back.
that I want to get your thoughts on that, but just a little setup for people who don't know. Who is this judge? Who is this activist judge who was actually appointed by a Republican? Judge James Boasberg, bless his heart, has not relented, has not caved. He has asked the Trump administration to tell him what time two planes took off from U.S. soil and from where, what time they left, and why they avoided due process when they essentially kidnapped, could be up to 100 or hundreds of brown folks whom they allege are Venezuelan terrorists based on tattoos, dump them in El Salvador, where again, no due process, but there was a camera crew, just like the old Nazi footage that showed them hooded and cuffed. And now we know that these individuals, at least some of them, Brian, and we really have to stress this, are innocent. We have family members saying, I think I recognize him. Oh, that's my husband. Oh, that's my cousin. Oh, they just got a tattoo. What? No, they're here legally. What's happening? Steve Bannon, I don't know if you've all seen this clip, has said, you know what? Yeah, a few of these guys could be your gardener. I'm sure they're swell guys, but that's okay. So It is possible that the Trump administration, invoking the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, which has only been invoked 3 times before, folks, during wartime, 1812, World War I, and most infamously during World War II, where we interned Japanese American citizens who were completely innocent. That is what the Trump administration has invoked to go after Venezuelan gang members, but pardon 1,600 violent insurrectionists. Judge James Boasberg ain't having it, folks. In fact, he has given the administration until 12 p.m. today to answer his questions and to respond to his demands. And as a result of him actually, enforcing the law, we have a constitutional crisis because this administration, well, they don't like being told no. They want to impeach this judge. And we had Justice Roberts, of all people, have a little bit of spine, Brian, a little bit of spine, and said, that's inappropriate. And then we had Luca Brasi in human form, Tom Homan, the border czar, openly said he's going to reject the judge. But then he did a little bit of a walk back, on Cuomo yesterday. Check this out.
You are a lawman's lawman. I know you respect judges and what they do. And we both know the Alien Enemies Act is a stretch, but I get the pressure you're under to find ways to get bad guys out of here faster. Am I right?
Look, let's get back to the statement that I don't care what the judges think. I said that. But it's not about the Alien Enemies Act. What I meant by that, we're going to keep arresting criminal aliens, we'll keep arresting Venezuelans, and we'll deport them either through Title 8 or another way. I'll wait till the DOJ and the courts fight this out as far as the Alien Enemies Act about moving, how far forward we go. But what my comment was, they're not going to stop deportation flights. You're not going to stop the arrest of gang members. You're not going to stop the arrest of TDA. We can hold TDAs up to 6 months before we remove them. Mm-hmm. So my comment there was we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We'll let DOJ and the courts fight this out, and we'll see where we go from there. But my comment was we're not going to stop what we're doing. We're going to keep targeting the worst of the worst.
Brian, on the Nerd Avengers, we keep receipts. Let's go to the comment.
It doesn't look like you're getting support from the Democrats on this. You're going against the judges now. What's next?
Another flight every day. The teams are going to be out there every day. Every day, the men and women of ICE are going to be in the neighborhoods of this nation arresting criminal, illegal alien, public safety threats, and national security threats. Lawrence, you're not going to stop us. We made a promise to the American people. The President Trump has made a promise to the American people. We're going to make this country safe again. I wake up every morning loving my job because I work for the greatest president in the history of my life, and we're going to make this country safe again. I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
Yeah,
Brian?
they're coming, all right. So's hellfire and damnation. God, you can't call him a Nazi enough. He's a disgusting individual. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. Guess what, folks? You can walk it back on, and I give Chris his due for trying to talk the guy into some sense, but the guy has no sense. And I remind everyone what it was. These people were enabled by the Supreme Court to begin with.
There you go.
So, and that happened. And now you've got John Roberts trying to get some of that authority back after Trump. And this is what he said on Truth Social. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached. Make America great again. That's from the president. That he posted on Truth Social. John Roberts then came out and issued a statement that said, quote, for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial system decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. But now let's go to PEP Secretary Barbie in the briefing room yesterday in that first comment that you showed where, thank God, somebody finally stood up and corrected one of her ungodly mistakes.
A robust press, a check and balance. Who would have thought it actually puts them on
one
their back
time?
foot.
There were 4 others that they could have pressed back against that they didn't, and we haven't, and that's disgusting. But she said in that press briefing that, she backed what, while they're going to respect the judges, that they're going to continue this anyway. So she's speaking out of both sides of her mouth. She says that Trump respects the judges, but honestly, that's a lie. That's well, the reason why Cuomo does that is the reason why many people do that on TV. You try to soften them up a little bit before you hit them over the head with a billy bat. So that's not exactly, I mean, those are well-known, tactics for reporters to do. So that's not a, yeah.
Well, we have a question from a community member, and I want to ask you this: why does Cuomo need to compliment them before he asks them questions?
Yeah.
So much sane washing for Gestapo-level persecution. Innocent Venezuelan tattoo artist was sent to El Salvador, vile and evil. Burq 34, thanks for your $10.
Yeah, that's my answer to that. It's a common tactic by interviewers on television. Yeah. One of the things that you'll notice that we'll do sometimes on TV is we'll ask the soft questions up front, and then hammer you. You don't want to be going out the back door. If the nicer, sometimes, like with Sam Donaldson and with Dan Rather and some of the people that did this for a long time, and I go back to H.L. Mencken days. They'd hit you with the soft question up front, get you comfortable, and then when you thought you were doing okay, they beat you over the head with a billy club, and you have to crawl out of there. So that's part of what that is.
I've been on News Nation before. News Nation veers very comfortably to the right. It's center right. And it gives itself some type of pretext to call it, oh, we're just doing balance. It's a very increasingly right-wing show, but at least Cuomo was able to get him and he got that clip out. Tom Homan is like if a rock became a human, but without the intelligence. That's Tom Homan. And we've seen two types of pushback, Brian. We saw
insulting rocks.
Yeah, I said well, that is true. I'm sorry, rocks. Some rocks are, rocks are at least pleasant. You could skip them on the water. I feel like Homan will just sink all the way down and kill like 4 fish, the fish of color, as he goes all the way to the bottom. But we saw what happens when there is a well-timed pushback by the press. And what we're seeing is what happens when there is an articulate pushback by a judge who's simply doing his or her job and holding Trump accountable. Checks and balances. You see, folks, not everyone has to bend the knee. If you actually force them in a way to justify their position, even Tom Homan, he does a 180 in one day. And now you're seeing the Trump administration, and now you're seeing the media chase it like the dog from Up. Well, wait a second. Not everyone here was a terror. What is the Trump administration just randomly locking people? Wait, why are they in El Salvador? Why is $6 million of U.S. taxpayer money going to Bukele to pay them and house them in potential torture prisons?
Well,
this is the power of resistance.
Yeah, the bigger question is how, if you accept this, right? If this is acceptable, how far will he go? The thing with Donald Trump is, I've always said, I think he's a virus. All right. And how does a virus creeps into your system, replicates with proteins, turns people, and creates an environment safer for the host to die and for the virus to spread. So the virus took over the Republican Party. It laid low the Democrats. It's back in office, and it is continuing to spread. And Donald Trump's virus, if you do not check it, if you do not stand up to it, if you bow to it at any point in time, if you ever even give it a courtesy of being nice to it, it's going to use you, and it's going to use that to go farther, more engulfing, more dangerous, more virulent. And we've seen that this second time in office. He learned when he got, everyone thought they killed the virus after Donald Trump was, voted out of office in 2020. But viruses don't die so easily. And it became mutated, more virulent. It came back into office. It has put members of the virus is spread now to all parts of government. And if you think that for one moment that putting an innocent person on a plane and sending them out of the country makes you any safer, I want to remind you that you could be next. Ask the French professor who was deported simply because he said something against Donald Trump. This does not end well. And all of this, Donald Trump is as vain and shallow, egomaniacal, egotistical as anyone I've ever met. The most loathsome character I've met in 40 years on the public stage in politics. Right. And what he wants his face on Mount Rushmore, and he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, and he'll kill anyone to get it. So that's
We had to bomb them in order to save them. And I'm so glad you brought up the French professor. In addition to the French professor, there was also Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian green card holder, whom the White House openly said has not committed any crimes. Doesn't matter. Marco Rubio doesn't like him, calls him a national security threat. So this man with an 8-month pregnant wife who's a citizen is in Louisiana right now. Another person who got shipped to Louisiana just yesterday, a postdoc student at Georgetown, an Indian national who's here legally. Apparently this government, folks, didn't like the alleged views of his spouse. So that's why they literally yanked him off the street, this Georgetown postdoc, Indian national. Now he's in Louisiana. So if they don't like your opinions, and if you have allegedly something on your phone or your laptop that goes against the king, the daddy, Donald Trump, now we're talking about the Frenchman, you'll be kicked out of this country. You won't be allowed in. And also we had a transplant doctor who was here legally saving lives at Boston University. They're alleging that she's a Nasrallah supporter, which is just a tenuous connection there. And so now she got kicked back. She's in, I believe, France right now on her way back to Lebanon. If they can go after all these people, they can go after you. And speaking about a robust resistance, showing how weak the chin is of a bully, of an authoritarian. Oh, we do have the Democratic Party. But, Brian, the Democratic Party has registered its lowest favorability rating ever since they started keeping favorability ratings. It's at 29%. And before I talk about AOC and her being invited by Republicans to come to their counties, I just want your rant on Chuck Schumer. It's I call it the Chuck Schumer death watch. I think everyone knows he's a dead man walking except him. He's been on a book tour. He's been trying to sell why he sided with the Republicans, gave him 10 votes to basically go and do what they're doing right now, which is dismantle the government. Your Chuck Schumer rant, do you think he has acquitted himself, Brian Karam?
Well, I think Chuck Schumer was playing by rules that no longer exist, and he's old and needs to go. Now, if you break down why he said what he said and did what he did, that makes logical sense, right? It makes logical sense to not put the country in harm's way. However, I would remind Chuck Schumer of a few facts. If you think that we're in a constitutional crisis, that's in the rearview mirror. If you think that we face strangulation of our government, if you back out of it, I will remind you that's in our rearview mirror. What the American people want to see out of the Democratic Party that they haven't seen, and this is millions, this isn't me. I'm just reporting what those have told me across the country have said, that they do not appreciate the fact that they are kowtowing to a bully. The only way to stand up to a bully is to stand up to a bully. Look, Donald, I am not a partisan. Waj, I have happily criticized Democrats, Republicans, and even a few Druids I know.
We always do this on the show, folks.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump, that you need to stand up to him. And those go, oh yeah, sure. How would you do it? Well, I've done it. Okay, screw you. I've been there. I've done it. I will do it again. Fact of the matter is, I will ask him anything I want, whenever I want. He doesn't want me in the room because he didn't fare the times in a room with me. Don't understand why Chuck Schumer and others don't stand up to the man and are still playing by rules that no longer exist. The biggest problem, the reason why the Democrats are so favorable, twofold. One, they don't appear to stand up. An appearance in politics is reality, hence the low drop in ratings. And number two, and probably the most important thing, the thing I criticized the Biden administration about the most, the thing that I consider to criticize the Democrats about, is they communicate so damn poorly. You don't tell somebody that, hey, we passed $1 trillion infrastructure bill once and then drop it and move on. You don't say, hey, 70% of the people favor abortion once and then move on. You don't. Good Lord, Donald Trump will beat you over the head with one false fact. It was a put out news 2020. I never lost it. He's been saying that for 5 freaking years. He didn't stop. They should at least take that message from the Republicans and beat people over the head with, facts instead of bullshit. Hit them over the head with facts.
Let's remember what Chuck Schumer said. He goes, the people are aroused. They're aroused. The people are aroused. That's in
Well,
that.
what do you have, Viagra that morning? I mean, aroused. They're angry. People are upset. There are millions of people that are screwball upset.
That's right.
Look,
that's right.
Again, 64%, and we consider that a great voter turnout, which meant that a little more than 37% of the people plus one in this country put this moron back in office. The silent majority is the 63% who didn't, and the people who did not vote. And so the problem is, folks, we have met the enemy, and he is us. Get your fat ass up off your desk, off your chair, out of your sofa. Get involved and vote. Get on phone banks. Get in, go and vote. Volunteer to help. You are not going to defeat fascism by sitting at home bitching about it or playing Chuck Schumer's role and acquiescing to it. You've got to stand up against it.
Well, some people are standing up against it, and some of those folks are women of color in the Democratic Party. AOC is stepping up after last week's debacle. Democrats are calling for a new change, and AOC continues to set an example by calling out Republicans who are, wait for it, sidestepping their own town hall responsibilities. Specifically, folks, she called out and slammed Republican Andy Biggs and Arizona GOP officials for hosting a town hall that barred non-Republicans, arguing that public officials should be accountable to all constituents. And she said that, but apparently they're like, no, only to our own party. Posted by AOC, as she notes that Republican reps that will not listen or support their constituents. Citizens are spreading the word. I want to show you a town hall in central Pennsylvania where Representative Scott Perry, Republican, didn't even bother, folks, to show up. And check it out. People are pissed. Brian is right. Listen. This is, again, Republican district in Pennsylvania.
Calling AOC because we can't get Scott Perry to have a town hall. She is traveling through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and she will hold a town hall where your representative will not come. So please call AOC and bring her here and shame Scott Perry.
I want to apologize to someone in the community who was disgusted by me quoting Chuck Schumer saying, I am aroused. If I had to hear it, you had to hear it too. And now none of us is aroused. But seeing that clip should give you a little spark, folks. Talk to me about this vacancy in the Democratic leadership and how AOC, Jasmine Crockett, and a few others, even I would say Senator Murphy, are stepping in. Brian, what are they showing? What are they doing that Schumer and others aren't?
Listening. The one thing that Democrats have to do is listen to, and the other thing is they're going to have to accept the Democrats are a big tent party. So they're not all progressive. So there are conservative Democrats. Now, the Republicans used to be a larger tent where there were actually, folks, I remember a time when there were liberals in the Republican Party. In my lifetime, there were not anymore.
I don't believe you. You must have been born in like 1880, Brian. Yeah. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm not that old. Oh, it hurts. But, my knee. But there used to be that wing of the Republican Party. Not anymore. The Democrats have got to go back to their roots, which they adopted. Look, they became the power party that they are because of FDR. The progressive era and got rural people involved, got people going to college, health care, right. All of that got everyone involved. And it was the Great Depression, man. They put people back to work. People say, well, what the hell? This guy cares. It's the same today. The Republicans have become it. The Gilded Age is back. The Republican Party has done nothing but adopt the oligarchs and screw you mentality for anyone else, getting rid of healthcare. They're going to get rid of the Department of Education today.
We're going to talk about that right up. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah. You want to be educated? Well, I want you to too, because I don't like the saying that came out of George Carlin's mouth, which is true. Think of how stupid the average person is and realize half of them are stupider than that. That would be great if we could elevate the education level of Americans. But
speak about go check out Carlin's clips from the 90s where he called out the oligarchy without calling out the
he called it out. He called and said the owners of this country do not want you educated. They want you smart enough just to operate the machinery, which, folks, is the reason why they're trying to bring back manufacturing, right? They want you stupid enough to operate the machinery. Most Americans don't want to go back to manufacturing jobs. They want to, we had advanced into a computer age, information age. Most Americans want to be involved in that, but they want to bring back manufacturing jobs, which they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but you also have to realize that most Americans, yes, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. That's exactly right. That's a wonderful saying by Carlin. But to finish the point on the Democrats, at the end of the day, if the Democrats are going to maintain and make any headway, they also have to embrace their centrists and their right and the center right part of that party. It can't just be the progressives carrying the water, or that is also, in effect, a super minority. They've got to reach out. Their strength is in numbers in the differences of opinion and in the fact that they all want to row in the same direction. Mazel tov, God bless them, let them do it. But if they abandon that and go for the far left, all they're going to do is embolden the far right. The far left and the far right just feed off of each other.
And I feel like AOC has welcomed those folks, right? Some of these folks who are Marine vets, those folks who are in these kind of blue collar center left districts, right? She just recently said, yes, we need a wide tent. We have a big coalition. Diversity is our strength, but we have to now unite around class. And if they unite around workers, the 99% going against the 1%, right? That's the message that resonates. I'm sure if you see these town halls, folks, they're saying in these town halls in front of Republicans, tax the rich, very popular. So increasingly, as Elon Musk and the oligarchy is the face of this administration, where there are billionaires like, Linda McMahon as our Secretary of Education, a billionaire, the spouse of Vince McMahon of WWE with also alleged sexual abuse allegations. She is the Secretary of Education.
Smackdown.
Oh, there you go. This is why we pay Brian the big money. Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, as we have discussed in Nerd Avengers, wants to dismantle the Department of Education. Let me repeat that. Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, a billionaire, wants to dismantle the Department of Education. Well, guess what, folks? When you elect folks who tell you exactly what they're going to do, like a Bond villain in Project 2025, you get what happened yesterday. Here's the clip.
The White House says that this is about returning the power for education to the states. Now, it's unclear how the different types of funding that the Department of Education takes in will roll out to the states once it's dismantled. But as you pointed out perfectly, the president would need Congress's support to be able to essentially end the Department of Education. This is something that the White House has telegraphed for weeks, as you mentioned as well. But this is the beginning stages, this executive authority to dismantle the Department of Education. Unclear if it will include job cuts as well. Remember, that is something that has already happened with half of the workforce at the Department of Education essentially fired. But the president making this announcement and signing this executive order today at 4 p.m.
So we got the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. As the anchor mentioned, the Trump regime has already cut the department's workforce in half. They have gutted the Office of Civil Rights and key funding programs for low-income students because the pro-life caucus is about F them kids. There's pushback from advocates.
Well,
teachers,
and again, as Carlin said, if you're a fetus, you're all right. Once you're born, screw you.
I'm telling you, check out those 90s Carlin HBO specials, just on point. Education advocates warn this will worsen inequality, which seems to be the point. We'll talk about that in a little bit. While some Republicans doubt Donald's legal ability to dissolve the department without congressional approval, I want to remind folks, and Brian, you've been in the game for a while. This has been
I'm old.
the plan. This has been the plan since the Brown versus Board of Education ruling, in which segregation was ruled unconstitutional in public schools. This is a 70-plus year plan. That was, if you will, the spark of the culture war. Roe v. Wade and abortion came much later. It was always about public education. It was about controlling the minds, the culture of the youth. And also teachers' unions, folk, is a bulwark against the right wing and their force. And they're also very Democrats. You want to weaken the teachers. And also they have this plan, like Betsy DeVos did, the former Secretary of Education, who was also, surprise, surprise, against the Department of Education, who poured millions of her wealth in these failed charter schools that keep just crapping the bed in Arizona and Michigan. And they end up being, Brian, shockingly, Christian schools. So what they're doing, like an arsonist, is they're literally throwing fire in the house. The house is on fire, and then they come out and say, look at these construction workers and the city planning. That's some terrible infrastructure. They're weakening the public school system and then saying, our public school systems suck. Let's go to charter schools and private schools.
Yeah,
and now
they're setting
the
fire.
Department of Education is going to die.
Yeah, they're claiming there's a fire that they started, and now they're claiming to be the firemen to put it out. So it's a bullshit story. But I think, Waj, it goes back. I think it goes back to the beginning of this country when white wealthy landowners in the South didn't want educated black people. You never want those who control. Never want a well-educated populace. Why are the conservatives? Why do the oligarchs? Why do Donald Trump want to destroy the Department of Education? They told you, because they feel like it indoctrinates their kids. And the fact of the matter is, it's not an indoctrination. Education, when you spend time with people from outside of your own comfort zone, your own tribe, when kids go away to school and they see black and brown and red and white and female and male and everyone mixing together, and by God, they're all there to learn, you find out that people have far more in common with each other than they don't. You see that people tend to want to get along more. The civil rights era grew from that. By the way, that grew out of the education that came after World War II, when they finally desegregated the armed forces and desegregated schools, and people got together and said, you know what? I'm wearing the same socks he is. Let's listen to the same music. They found out that they were not enemies. When you limit education and you preach the tribal mentality, you limit the people's interaction with others who think differently than them, and that enables you to control the population. When my grandfather right there came to this country at the end of the 19th century, the first thing he said, and I heard it growing up, to my dad, who's right there, those two preached the one thing: when you're in this country, the greatest thing about this country is the fact that you can become anything that you want because of the greatest education system in the world. That no longer exists. And in fact, I would not have gone to college without the Science Mathematics Achievement Program, which came out of the Sputnik Challenge. I was too poor to go to college. I got 2 scholarships because of the fact that I was scientific scholarship was the first one. The other was a journalism scholarship, because I had achieved something in public school that you don't even get today. I've learned 3 languages in public school. You don't get that today.
And everything is connected, folks. Education, the attack on education, the attack on Social Security, the attack on DEI, it's all connected. It goes back to this white nationalist agenda. And I'll give you a quick example, if I can share my dad's story, because Brian, you inspired me. A lot of the immigrants who came here for American education. My dad came here as a result of the 1965 Immigration Nationality Act, folks, that removed the 40-year restrictions they had on literally Asians from coming, right? And it made, based on the civil rights movement, they passed the Immigration Nationality Act, which then forbade banning someone based on national origin. Stephen Miller, our Budget Goebbels, hates the Immigration Nationality Act. So does Steve Bannon. Why? Because of the Immigration Nationality Act, we had so many Asians and Latinos who came here, educated folks who were able to build the American dream, right? Came here with nothing and were able to get the education and then become middle class, upper class, and then bring their family members. Quick story. My dad came here, much like, he got the scholarship, right? He came here on a student visa. He got a scholarship to grad school. He was going to go for a student visa extension. And so he goes to those days in the early 70s in Chicago to the immigration office, and a white man looks up and down at him. And my dad said he was swearing. And he said, "You Arabs only come here to F American girls." My dad is not an Arab. He was not effing American girls. He ordered him deported. My dad had 1 week to get out of Pakistan. He's a young guy. He's freaked out. And then my dad goes to this law firm in Chicago. And he said another young white man who had just passed the bar looked at him, saw what was happening, said, "Don't get on that plane to Karachi. I'll help you. I'll help you apply for a special visa for free." So my dad says, yeah, this guy's just lying. The guy shows up at the immigration judge's office, prepares everything for him. My dad said there was a judge. He says from his last name, he thought the judge was Jewish. He looks at everything, realizes my dad got a raw deal, said, sir, I'm sorry this happened to you. I'll give you an extension to file this paperwork for the special visa. And my dad, who was about to get deported, thanks to the kindness of two strangers, a lawyer and a judge, got the special e-visa, the Einstein visa that is given to those immigrants of outstanding abilities. And that's why I am here, folks. That is why I'm here, due to education and the kindness of some Americans. I hope you don't mind me telling you that story, because I feel like it's the crux of so much what's happening right now, this attack on education and this racism. And speaking about the racism and how it's connected and how—
They called you an Arab?
You know, they call my dad an Arab. He's from Pakistan. Two things.
You know what they called me growing up? It wasn't Arab. It was Arab.
You are an Arab.
Yeah, I'm an Arab. Sheik of the Araby.
How this is so connected to the white nationalist agenda, folks. Lexi just gave us a news clip. U.S. universities are now facing a choice to surrender or fight back over Trump threats to investigate DI or lose their federal funding. Just yesterday, UPenn lost $175 million. Tell them why, Brian.
Well, because they wouldn't bow to Donald Trump's bullshit. I mean, it's just, why is Columbia in trouble? Because alleged DEI, they call it discrimination. What we call it is emancipation. But that's not what—
the trans athletes,
yes.
right?
Yes.
With UPenn, there was one trans athlete 3 years ago. So because of that, UPenn loses $175 million. They crack down on Columbia, $400 million. They're sending ICE to Columbia, raiding, picked up a Columbia student, and all of these universities, folks, are rolling over and bending the knee.
I don't like to mention the and I didn't bring it up because I think we get lost in that. And you're right. That's the specific reason, right? That's what they're using as leverage. But what you said earlier is absolutely accurate. They want you to bow the knee. They want you to bend over. They want you to understand that it's not a fact. It's not important unless they say it is. And if you don't give in to what they want on all of it, they're coming after you. And that is not American. That is anti-intellectual. That is anti-democratic. That is anti-human. It is totalitarianism. It is, without a doubt, the greatest danger when you tell people that they can't think what they want to think. And I'll remind people, for the love of God, in 1977, the Ku Klux Klan got a permit to march in Chicago and out south of Louisville, Kentucky. I covered that as a young journalist. And then, of course, if you saw the Blues Brothers, I hate Illinois Nazis. That's where that scene came from, because the Klan got a chance to march, and they made fun of them in a comedy movie. Today, think of it on the other end. You want to preach, inclusion. You want to preach, emancipation. For transgender, for anyone? No, they're not giving you the ability to say it. It's anti-American. And that is what is the greatest threat to America right now, is Donald Trump and his virus, which has spread across the country.
It's a white nationalist virus, but I would say that it is American. It's part of our history, folks. As Brian was saying, here we have the KKK, the Nazis, people like Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist whom Donald Trump dined with. Donald Trump and these authoritarians say they're against sex traffickers. So that's why they imported alleged sex trafficker, Andrew Tate from Romania, who got a hero's welcome by MAGA. They want to protect women, which is why on St. Paddy's Day, they had Conor McGregor, MMA fighter, who just lost a civil case for rape, who came to the White House, did an anti-immigrant rant. They're against DEI, which is why they made an exception for St. Paddy's Day and made the water turn green, right? They are for children, which is why they do nothing against gun violence, right? They're perfectly fine with alleged rapists and sexual assaulters and criminals like Donald Trump. They are against liberals who are soft on crime, which is why he released and pardoned 1,600 violent insurrectionists, including individuals with a violent criminal background, including
they were white. Come on.
Who who were charged with and convicted on seditious conspiracy. And I know you might think, Waj, you're talking about this racism thing, that the fact that this white nationalism thing is the underlying thesis. I don't know, Waj, you talk about race too much. Folks, I give you this. Segregated facilities are no longer explicitly banned in federal contracts. The Trump administration erases the ban on contractors running segregated facilities. A February memo from the GSA, General Services Administration, prompted by Donald's executive order on diversity, equity, and inclusion, erased language barring federal contractors from operating segregating facilities like restaurants and waiting rooms. Folks, we're now back to the 1890s. That rollback aligns with other policies, such as, using the Alien Enemies Act.
Well, that goes back even further, 100 years before that. But to your point,
wait, real quick, this is not a drill, folks, because that happened just yesterday, it was announced that in their attack on DEI, they temporarily scrubbed the mention of Jackie Robinson. Last week, they scrubbed the mention of Navajo code talkers, World War II heroes, who, thanks to their indigenous DI language and culture, were able to defeat Nazis by transmitting code to allies. This is what they're doing, folks. I want people to be very clear about what they're doing. You scrub Jackie Robinson, you scrub transgender people, you scrub Navajo code talkers, but you make an exception for Conor McGregor and St. Paddy's Day. And then I want to go back to this, folks.
Well, wait a minute.
Segregated facilities are no longer explicitly banned. Brian, rant away.
Don't forget, they also banned the mention of the Enola Gay.
Oh, yeah. I knew you were going to do that.
Gay was in there. Come on.
Tell him he's right. This was a week and a half ago. They banned the mention of Enola Gay because I'm convinced they did a Control F gay, and anything that showed up, they just deleted. Can you tell people what Enola Gay was?
The bomber that dropped the bomb in Hiroshima. That was the name of the airplane, the Enola Gay. And so I agree with you. I think they had a 19, 20-year-old hacker who goes, all right, do a search, gay.
I'm convinced.
Get rid of it.
It makes sense.
That's the only way they can do it.
Oh, remember the mice? The transgender mice? No, I think we just did Control F trans and gay and deleted everything.
Yeah, and those were transgenic mice, different things. But
transgenic.
Yes, which was planting DNA into a mouse, right? Human DNA to test drug trials on mice instead of humans to see if it was viable medicine for human beings. A well-accepted experiment done by scientists, and now you're going to be in trouble because, that's okay, you have measles. But going back to the racial thing, there is when people tell me that, Brian, it isn't about that, and I hear the same thing you hear all the time, come on. But here's the thing, folks, take it a step further.
Yeah.
It is, they are racist, and they're misogynistic. They are misanthropes. They don't like other human beings. The only people they like are the 200 oligarchs on the planet, and they think they're going to take over the planet, and we are merely chattel. So what's the best way to keep us from noticing? And this again goes back to Carlin, who said they are keeping you fighting over stuff while they keep running to the bank. And so they keep you noticing the racism, the misogyny. Why do you think they pick on transgender people? It's a touchstone point for what reason? Because it's emotional. There's no statistics behind it. There's nothing to say that this is a real issue, but they get you scared and angry, and they play on your emotions. And while you're fighting over that, they're running away with the money. The truth of the matter is, all of us have far more in common. That poor, and I've had to say this to my own in-laws. I said, you have far more in common with a poor transgender person than you have in common with Elon Musk.
That's right.
And the fact of the matter is,
Brian, that's the message right there. We said that's the message that can unite the majority against this oligarchy.
And I want to hear that more. I do want to hear that more. If the Democrats would just come out and point out these facts. You all have far more in common with each other than you do with the morons that are running the government. Think about that, folks. 11 billionaires on the cabinet are on Donald Trump's staff, right? And those 11 billionaires control more wealth and more capital than what, 90 some odd percent of the rest of us?
Yep.
Give me a break.
And I also want to mention the numbers. I'm so glad you mentioned that. This is part and parcel of the Southern strategy, folks. Every few years, they come up with a new boogie person. It's a divide and conquer. So they want to divide white America from people of color. Like Brian said, they have so much in common. They're working paycheck to paycheck. They just want to have enough money to buy a little house, maybe buy a car, raise a family, right? They want Medicare, they want Social Security, but they divide you on race and culture issues. And trans people, they spent $200 million, folks, in this election. They spent over $200 million on the trans issue. And folks, the polls show that it worked. So now you got Americans literally voting against their interests, against this manufactured threat. 1% of the population, that's trans folks, 1% of the population. And then you hand over your freedom and your rights to Elon Musk, South African apartheid bro, and Donald Trump, a criminal, and his crony of billionaires who are now chopping us up and taking everything. A little bit of Medicaid, private prisons, weather forecasting, education, USPS. And guess what, folks?
I'm going to stop you there for
Sure.
one. The thing that you just said about private prisons is the most deplorable issue that they have taken up yet. That is slavery. That is human trafficking.
It's all connected.
And by God, there is no oversight of private prisons. And in fact, the most important part about private prisons, it has risen the number of people incarcerated in this country to the point that of all supposedly free governments in this world, we have the highest percentage of our population incarcerated. Private prisons are behind it, and they make money off incarcerating. For example, there was a one that I did. It's in Southern Indiana. Most of the people that they had incarcerated in that prison were minor offenders for possession of marijuana, for possession of stolen goods, like stealing $20 out of a grocery store. It's all low level stuff, and they keep them there as long as possible, and they get subsidies and money off of it. You're screwed, blued, and tattooed if you don't realize that that's slavery. That's all it is.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. And two quick things, how everything's so connected and going back full circle. Crack down on immigrants, folks. Where are they housing them?
Yes. Yeah.
And
private prisons.
And also, right when Donald Trump was elected, the stocks of one particular industry went sky high. Private prisons keep you dumb, keep you overwhelmed, keep you addicted to drugs, give you the soma, make you desperate, commit crimes. Even if you don't commit crimes, go after the browns, the blacks, the people they don't like, send them to private prisons. In private prisons, you get to do work almost for free. Guess who was helping fight those fires in California, folks? Incarcerated people.
Yeah.
And this is part and parcel of the technocracy. One of these days we'll talk about it. Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and the South African oligarchy, they have a vision of this thing called the technocracy, where only they will be in charge, the talented folks with eugenics. And they say that capitalism is an enemy of democracy. It's all coming to fruition. And all it took was a $290 million donation by Elon Musk. And also they want their tax cuts. And how are they going to go get their tax cuts? By going after Medicaid and Social Security. And when we said this on this show, that they will go after Medicaid and Social Security, people said, no, they won't. Folks, they've been trying to do it since Reagan. And now, check it out.
A major change coming to Social Security. In an effort to crack down on fraudulent claims, the Trump administration planning to impose stricter measures on how to verify a person's identity. Soon, people will no longer be able to prove their identity over the phone, meaning those who can't do so using the online service have to go in person. The change comes as the agency plans to close dozens of Social Security offices nationwide and lay off thousands of workers. The tightening measures coming from Doge and Elon Musk, who is using claims of voter fraud and illegal immigration to make the pitch for cuts, allegations for which he hasn't offered evidence and experts say is inaccurate. Advocates warn those with mobility issues or limited access to the internet will suffer.
How important is the phone service at the Social Security Administration?
Oh, it's extremely important. It's going to make field offices more crowded. It's going to make it more difficult to access the benefits that we have all earned.
Oh, so we're not going to shut down Social Security, but we're just going to shut down offices and shut down the phone services because, seniors, those who are elders, those who are disabled, they'll just have to roll up to the offices that no longer exist to make the claims. Ha ha ha! I wonder what will happen.
Well,
Brian, talk to us about just the cruelty of this, the cruelty of attacking Social Security.
Let's talk about the hypocrisy first before we talk about the cruelty. The fact of the matter is, this isn't the government's money. This is our money that we pay into a separate fund. It's mine.
It's
Keep
not
your
an
hands
entitlement.
off
It's
of
not
it.
an entitlement.
It's not an entitlement. It's what you pay out of your damn check off the sweat of your brow. Your work puts that money aside for you so you have it when you need it. It's not the government's to touch. It's not the government's to play with. You have an administrative fee, and that's what funds the offices, and the government pays for that. So by cutting it, now talking about the hypocrisy of that, now by cutting it, you're going to say it's harder to get the money that's yours unless you go in, which you can't do because there's nobody there. By the way, have you ever been to the DMV? If you think the lines are bad there, have you ever seen the Social Security office in Gaithersburg, Maryland, not far from where my office is? I have seen currently, and this is over the last 15, 20 years, the Social Security office there sometimes will have lines around the block just to get in, to take care of very minor things. And that to me is, if you're going to cut them even more, you don't give a damn about Social Security. You're going to try and steal that money from us. And that's what Donald Trump wants to do. And that's what Elon wants to do, because Elon Musk, if anything else, is one of those termites that embed themselves into the wood foundation of a building and eats it from the bottom up.
Musk called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. This is the richest man on earth.
The guy who has Bitcoin, the Ponzi scheme.
And he got $400 million for his Cybertrucks from the State Department. He's got $38 billion of government subsidies, your taxpayer dollars. Hasn't cut anything when it comes to defense spending or military industrial complex, but wants to go after Social Security and Medicaid because they're going to pass their tax cuts and blow up the deficit. It's all a big grift. And folks, with Social Security, two sobering points I want to make is many of our elders depend on Social Security as their only financial lifeline. That means once they cut Social Security, and by cutting Social Security, by crippling it, is what they're doing right now, by cutting the field offices and cutting the one resource that most elders have, the landline, right? Because they don't have the ability, folks, the means to go in person. I took care of my grandmother. My grandmother, towards the end of her life, she needed a wheelchair. How's my grandmother, if I wasn't there, going to go wheel herself to the Social Security office, right? What's going to happen once they cut Social Security? I want people to really sit with this. Our elders are going to die. Disabled individuals are going to die. They do not have any other source of income. And these individuals, these Republicans, are perfectly fine with our elders who have worked their entire life with the promise that maybe, just maybe, at the end, during the golden years, with the money that I accumulated, as Brian said, with the sweat of my brow, I can get a measly paycheck so that I don't have to eat cat food. And this administration
says, I have a place to stay, to live, that I'm not living in the street. Yeah. I mean, that's what it's there for. It's your money, man. Why in the hell would you ever get? And what is excuse me, but what does Elon Musk have to say about what? Why would you even listen to this moron?
It's a Ponzi scheme, and we have to save money. It's the cruelty and also the incompetence. And I'm going to end on one note. The last story we're going to talk about is the incompetence. But I will say this: people are going to die. And my prediction is this, Brian. I want you quickly your thoughts on this. Is look. They've been after Social Security since Reagan. You know this. You're an old buck. Each time Republicans get near third rail, their own base always says, whoa, 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 whoa. This group that is so drunk with power, with arrogance, that thinks that they're going to rule forever. And I think the reason why they think they're going to rule forever, as Steve Bannon just said yesterday, they have a plan to keep Trump in power. I don't think they think they're leaving. But this is a country of 400 million guns. And I think you go after Social Security, I think that's where the dam breaks with MAGA.
Yes, I talk to my own my own farmer, in-laws, my in-laws who all live on farms in mid-Missouri. Well, you better not come after my money. Yeah, I mean that's
I hate socialism, but give me my Medicare.
Yeah, and I don't need my Social Security. Yeah, of course it's gonna. And the only thing that you can really say to succinctly tie it all together is fuck around and find out.
That's right. I agree with you. I think I hope That for me is that's crossing the Rubicon, and Republicans just don't see it. And I think they're going to do overreach.
Well,
Go
they're not
after
Republicans. Again, these are not Republicans. This is a MAGA virus. And the MAGA
Social Security folks, I think that's it, especially with the economy right now. Real quick, speaking about the incompetence, these people, we live in idiocracy, folks. So not only are they cruel, not only are they authoritarian, not only are they the oligarchy, billionaires, and cutting all of our services, they're also very stupid, reckless, and idiotic. And I give you this example. We always try to bring receipts. Lexi, can you show me the slide of what happened when they released the JFK files yesterday? The 64,000 pages that were declassified relating to the 1963 assassination of JFK. They failed to redact sensitive personal information. So they rushed this out, folks. And guess what they did? The Trump administration accidentally exposed the Social Security numbers and personal data of hundreds of individuals, including congressional staff, intelligence researchers, and former ambassadors. Donald unexpectedly announced it. He announced the release while touring the Kennedy Center, which he has now corrupted and destroyed. He caught his national security team off guard. It triggered the rush of these files without any review. And voila, as Tulsi Gabbard, Russia's girlfriend, not my word for it, but Russia's own words for it, Russia TV's word for it, the director of national intelligence, she praised the move as maximum transparency. Yep. You got the Social Security numbers and personal information of innocent Americans. Congratulations. And Donald said, I have little interest in the contents, the documents' contents, but in maximum transparency, we still haven't gone the Epstein files. Just saying.
Well, and if you want to go maximum transparency, some of the files that they released were redacted files that were already released during the Biden administration. So they took, all they did was, well, shit, we got to get this out. And they just put it all together and shoved it out there. And there was a good friend of mine who covered this for years, and Stephen Portnoy, if you get his X on X and on his Substack, he outlines what was actually in this. And it's a great read. The fact of the matter is there wasn't anything, there was marginally astounding news in it. Most of it was a hodgepodge of crap that's already been released. And then, of course, since
spoiler alert, Lee Harvey did it. Continue.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, just in case you want a Social Security number of a couple of people that used to be in the administration, it's there for you. Have at it.
But we're literally living in idiocracy, folks. It is the most violent and dumb timeline. But this is what a plurality of Americans voted for. It's bad, folks. I want people to know that we're in it. This is an era of authoritarianism, but we have the numbers. We have the majority. We have to take care of ourselves. And we've seen, going full circle, when a few brave people simply, figuratively punch a bully in the mouth, a bully has a weak jaw and even weaker knees. These people are fragile. You saw Elon Musk go on Fox yesterday crying, South African apartheid Musk. Oh, why are they doing this to me and my Tesla vehicles? I've never hurt anybody except do Tuesday Hiles and call Social Security a Ponzi scheme and take a chainsaw and just, cut thousands of workers. Why do they hate me?
For the love of God,
so
how do you look at either Donald Trump or Elon Musk as masculine? I just see them as the guys that were always picked last for kickball, and they're still snot-nosed today, and they're still whining, and I refuse to bow, boycott, walk away, or anything. I'm going to stand right there and thump them in the nose every chance I get. They are weak. Kick them over.
I agree. Look, we call them out on the Nerd Avengers. As Brian said, and Mary isn't here. She'll be back on Tuesday. But we call it Democrats. We call it Republicans. We call it billionaires. Anyone who's against freedom, equality, progress, and justice. Folks, take care of yourselves. Take care of your health. Take care of your families. Take care of your local communities. Show up. Look at these town halls. Those are average American Joes, Janes, Jose's who are showing up and posting these videos. And look, these Republicans are scared. They're scared. That's why they're canceling these town halls. And we are doing our best with the limited talents that we have. Mary Trump's Nerd Avengers is part of the Mary Trump Media Network. Mary now has, Lexi, how many? 270,000, 260,000 subscribers. We're trying to get to 300,000. We are independent media. We do not take any money from corporate overlords. we are beholden. We depend on the kindness of strangers, like Blanche Dubois. So all those folks who are watching right now, we got about 6,000. Thanks so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Ring that bell. You'll be notified each time we go live. Please like this video. I know it sounds ridiculous, but for whatever reason, the algorithm gods and YouTube really appreciate it. This video is about to get live on YouTube in about 2 minutes. Share it. Send an email, send it to your friends, post it on anywhere. Whenever it gets shared, it really helps the numbers, helps bring people to this network. For those people who gave us those donations, the $149, the $5.99, the $6.99, the $10, the $3, it goes such a long way. Thank you for being a super sharer, a super chatter. That's that button with the heart and the dollar sign right now, like Alto Eager. Thank you so much. $9.99. Oh, really appreciate it. It goes a long way. I know times are tough, folks, but Mary, people always think that Mary has a lot of money. She doesn't, folks. She is the outlier of her family, and she walked away from all of that because she cares about this country and she cares about people, and she's gone through a lot. I know Mary would never want me to say this, but it's true. She's gone through a lot. Brian knows it. For fighting this good fight the last couple of years.
I call her my sister, man. I know exactly what she's going through and what she went through with her pop. Really, we bonded over that. Her father and my father were kind of the same, had the same place in our responding families, and I love Mary to death. What she's gone through to make sure that she's there for us, and that she's there is, and pointing out the truth of what's going on. It's important. And I would add to it, Waj, I love your Substack. I encourage everyone to go to Substack, check out your Substack, check out mine, Reporter's Notebook, and you've got one, Waj, and The Left Hook. And I remind everyone that this kind of stuff is necessary to a democracy. If you walk in, and I've been a member of the press since I was 18 years old, if you walk in and see what passes for free press today, this type of effort that we're doing is where the future of journalism is. I recommend that everyone get behind it, and that everyone remind your friends, your neighbors, if you want to find out the truth, if you want to find out facts, you've got to search for it. And here's a good place to start.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was my job. Yes, I'm at the Left Hook Substack. We now have over 50,000 subscribers. I'm a terrible capitalist, so I have no paywalls. So I depend on the kindness of you. If you can, give $4.99. If you can't, I get it. Also, we were just told we have 327,000 subscribers, so we got to get to 350. We have 350,000 subscribers. And as we leave, Brian Karam, shamelessly promote yourself, sir.
I will shamelessly promote myself in Salon each week. The name of the book is called Free the Press, wherever fine books are sold. There's a number of, you go to justaskthequestion.com for the podcast. Reverse Shot is the other one that we have on the Mary Trump Network. And of course, Substack, man, go to Substack and look us all up, because that's I'll put all of my writings, even each week I put some of the old stuff, so you can see how we haven't progressed since the first Donnie administration, if you want to catch up.
Listen, folks, we're in it now, but this is the long walk and we need each other. So take care of yourselves, take rests when you need to, help each other out, try your best to be kind, and please, oh please, don't be a fascist. We'll be back Tuesday, 12 p.m. with Mary and the Nerd Avengers. Take care.
Rock and roll picture show, baby.